place of articulation is also straightforward. Where in the vocal tract is the restriction being made? The greatest variety of changes in the airstream occur in the mouth, the oral cavity. Knowing the parts of the mouth is also not too difficult. Some important locations in your mouth include things like the lips, right? We call those labials, the teeth or dentals, alveolar ridge, that bony ridge right behind your teeth, the hard palate is just behind that bony ridge, the soft palate or the velum, which is that softer area behind the hard palate, and then finally the glottis is the opening between the vocal cords. And so you can see here's the place of articulation and here's the descriptor. So they're not too hard to figure out. Teeth is dental, for example. Another thing that makes it easy is that the IPA chart is organized such that the very front part of the vocal tract, the lips, are over here, and the furthest part of your vocal tract, the glottis, is over here. So it's kind of like a head facing to the left. So for example, a bilabial. So bilabial sounds are produced by bringing the lips together, as in b, p, and m. Labiodentals, right, involve the lips and the teeth. So these are produced with the lower lip and the upper teeth, as in f and v. Interdental just means between the teeth. So these sounds are produced with the tip of the tongue between the teeth or just behind the teeth. Thigh is one and thy is another. These are actually kind of weird sounds and actually pretty rare sounds when you look at the world's languages. And people will often, who are not native English speakers, will often substitute some other sound for th or th, like the D sound. So instead of saying there, they might say dare. Alveolar sounds involve the tip of the tongue being on the alveolar ridge, or that bony ridge right behind your teeth, as you can see here. So these sounds, there's a lot of these sounds, like t, d, n, l, s, and z. Right? So the s and z sounds, they don't quite hit the alveolar ridge, but they come close. And then there's sort of intermediate sounds like alveopalatal, where the tongue is at or near the hard palate. These symbols are a little bit weird, right? So far they haven't been too bad. So this symbol is the sh sound, as in show. This one is the zh sound, as in garage. This is a combination of two sounds, the t and the sh, to make ch, as in chain. And here's another combination, a d and a j, to make j. Velar sounds evolve the soft palate further back in your mouth. And this is where the tongue is at, or at least near the soft palate or the velum. So if you say the word king, king, or k, or g, as in go, then you can feel that articulation or that touching of the velum in your tongue. Also, here's a kind of unusual symbol in the IPA chart. It's the ng sound, right? The ing sound. And finally, we have the glottal. And this is produced at the larynx. So typically, you have what's called a glottal stop, where you cut off the air at your larynx. So your vocal cords are totally closed and no air is going through. We have some glottal stops in English when we say oh or those involve a stoppage of air. So if you say and stop, you're not breathing because there's no air getting through your vocal cords. So the Geico gecko will say bottle, right? So those two T's are actually not pronounced as a T, but as a glottal stop. Or sometimes people say kitten or button. Those are also glottal stops. Or even something like fountain. And we have more subtle glottal stops. If you say something like, "Are you certain you want one?" Can you hear the glottal stops there? Certain you want one? More dramatically would be a kind of Cockney accent where glottal stops are really pronounced. So Betty bought a bit of butter would be a huge exaggeration of a glottal stop. But the bit of butter Betty bought was bitter, so Betty bought another bit of butter. Okay, I think you get the idea.